Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible story straight out of a village called Sanjay Nagar. It's this classic, inspiring tale that hits the nail on the head when it comes to resilience, making strategic pivots, and the magic of value creation. We're going to look at how a piece of completely barren land, combined with a mother's deep wisdom, actually managed to take down the most powerful and ruthless man in their entire village. So, let's jump right in.
Now, the whole shebang really hinges on one person, Ganga Devi. Her husband passed away about 10 years ago, leaving her to raise her two teenage sons, Harya and Lalu, through just unimaginable hardship. She's the emotional core of our story here, and our mindset is perfectly captured by this quote, "Those who try never fail." As you'll see, that profound, simple piece of wisdom acts as the spark for literally every major turning point in their lives. Which brings us to Chapter 1, the Zamindar's Cruelty. To really appreciate their triumph later on, we first got to understand just how desperate things were. The sequence of losses this family goes through is, well, it's terrifying. At this point, they're scraping by solely on whatever Harya makes from his tiny tea stall. Then enter the local zamindar. He's this cruel, super powerful landlord. Out of nowhere, he demands repayment for some old debt, violently evicts Harya, and literally throws all his tea stall stuff out onto the street. Just like that, the family's income goes to zero. To survive, they have to turn to their only remaining asset, a barren plot of land they inherited from their dad. But you know, seeds and fertilizer cost money, right? So the sacrifices just keep escalating. First, Ganga Devi actually pawns her sacred wedding necklace, her Mongol Sutra, just to get that seed money. And spoiler alert, later on, they're going to have to mortgage their very home. They are risking absolutely everything. Let's move on to Chapter 2, the watermelon disaster. Okay. So armed with the cash from that pawn necklace, the brothers just pour their blood, sweat, and tears into this supposedly dead land. They decide to bet it all on planting watermelons. Day and night, through the scorching heat and pouring rain, they're out there working the soil, and against all odds, the land actually responds. The vines flourish. They pack up their harvest and head to the market, fully expecting this huge payday. But then, disaster strikes. The watermelons have this gorgeous, large, dark green exterior, but when you cut them open, the inside is completely white. No taste, no juice, just totally awful. The customers go absolutely ballistic. Market traders start aggressively demanding refunds, even threatening violence. The brothers have no choice but to hand back every single penny, and they trudge home completely humiliated and broken.
Feeling totally defeated, Harya throws his hands up, declares the land cursed, and just wants to quit. But here is where Ganga Devi steps in again. Instead of seeing this as a total failure, she reframes it. To her, it's a critical data point. She says, if the land were truly barren, why would the watermelon vines flourish? We made a mistake, but giving up is not life. Basically, she realizes if the land was actually dead, nothing would have grown at all. The vines did great, they just picked the wrong crop. Giving up is completely off the table. Instead, she tells her sons to pivot to something much tougher. They are going to grow dates, or khajur.
This sets up Chapter 3, the khajur pivot.
Now, growing dates is a long game. And remember, the family is flat broke. To fund this slow harvest, they make the ultimate gamble. They mortgage their tiny little family hut directly to the zamindar. And he eagerly takes the deal because he knows their roadside land is incredibly valuable. If the brothers fail now, they're not just broke, they are literally out on the street. Well, fast forward a bit, and it works. They cultivate this stunning harvest of dates, they haul them off to the market. But remember that angry mob from the watermelon fiasco? Yeah, the traders are still holding a massive grudge. They completely boycott the brothers. They reject the fresh dates outright, without even looking at them, let alone tasting them. So here's the massive problem. The market rejected them unseen. Now what? The product might actually be amazing, but the distribution channel is completely dead.
That brings us to Chapter 4, the sweet taste of innovation. Crushed once again, the boys head home. But Ganga Devi, she is not about to let a bunch of stubborn market traders dictate their fate. She picks up one of the raw dates and takes a bite. And she's blown away. It is incredibly sweet, like maybe the most delicious thing she's ever tasted. Right then, it clicks. They don't need those traders at all. They're going to bypass the entire market through value adding. So here is her brilliant 3-step plan. Step 1, pluck the sweet raw dates. Step 2, mash them up and mix them with rich, native jaggery. Step 3, cook the whole concoction overnight over a traditional wood fire. By combining her own hard work, the heat of the fire, and these simple raw ingredients, She invents a brand new, totally irresistible product, Khajur Barfi, or date sweets. So they completely bypass the traditional market and take their baskets right to the villagers on the street. And the reaction? It's explosive. This Khajur Barfi becomes an absolute sensation overnight. Not only is it sweet, soft, and delicious, but the villagers actually start reporting this amazing medicinal relief from their body aches after eating it. It genuinely gives them strength. Suddenly, everybody wants them. People are buying half a kilo, full kilo, portions for their kids. The direct-to-consumer sales just skyrocket. The family finally starts raking in some serious money, so much so that they actually earn enough to buy back the mother's sacred wedding necklace.
But there's always a catch. Chapter 5, The Itchy Defeat. Because, success always attracts jealousy, right? The Zamindar sees this family pulling themselves out of the mud, and he is absolutely terrified that they're going to rival his own wealth and status. So he hatches a plan to seal their entire date harvest in the dead of night. Luckily, a local trader named Champak happens to overhear this devious little plot. Champak rushes over to warn Harya, but he drops an even bigger bombshell. The secret is finally revealed. The Zamindar was actually the one who orchestrated that original market boycott. He had literally bribed and manipulated the traders to reject the dates so that Harya would default on his loan. Why? So the Zamindar could legally steal their incredibly valuable roadside property. Now that they know the truth, Harya and his mother aren't going to just sit around and cower. They decide to fight back with this brilliant and honestly hilarious trap. Harya goes out and coats the trunks and branches of every single date palm with a super potent, wild itching herb. When midnight rolls around, the Zamindar's goons sneak in to steal the fruit. The second they climb those trees, boom, the trap springs. The thieves get this severe itching on their hands and feet. They describe it as the sensation of thousands of marching ants swarming all over their bodies. Within seconds, they are running wildly down the road, acting like their waists are literally on fire, totally abandoning the harvest in sheer panic. And Harya, Lalu, and Champak, they're just hiding in the bushes, absolutely crying with laughter at the whole spectacle.
And that leads us to our final chapter. Chapter 6, Time Changes for Everyone.
Having successfully defended their crop and their genius innovation, the family finally hits the ultimate jackpot. Word of this miraculous Khajur Burfi spreads way beyond the village. It actually reaches the big city. A wealthy merchant travels all the way to Hadia's doorstep because his city customers are practically demanding this specific sweet. And get this, the merchant places an initial advance order of 10 to 20 kilos to stock his 5 city shops. He hands over a massive cash advance right then and there. This single massive order permanently secures the family's wealth. It gives them more than enough cash to pay off the zamindar, reclaim their mortgaged home, and finally live comfortably.
It is so satisfying to look at this complete reversal of fortunes. Let's look at Harya's family. They started out completely destitute, drowning in debt, and essentially homeless. But by the end, through pure grit and strategic innovation, they are wealthy, they've got their home and jewelry back, and they command massive respect in the community. On the flip side, look at the Zemindar. He started as this incredibly powerful, cruel man that everyone feared. And his ending? He is publicly humiliated, totally powerless to stop the family's rise, and gets reduced to begging Harya for forgiveness. He basically has to admit that hard work and fate just don't bow down to greed. The power dynamic of the entire village just did a complete 180.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. What new value will you create when the world rejects your harvest? Harya and Ganga Devi didn't just smash their heads against a wall trying the same failing strategy twice. When the market rejected their raw dates, they didn't just fold. They added value. They innovated. They created Khajur Barfi. So the next time you are facing a massive obstacle or some bitter rejection, ask yourself how you can take exactly what you have right now, add your own unique fire to it, and create something the world simply cannot refuse. Thanks so much for hanging out with me to explore this awesome story. Keep learning, keep innovating, and I'll see you in the next one.